Often we get asked here on DMs about what are the mistakes people make with financial planning. And God help us, there's an awful lot of mistakes. But there are 4 predominant mistakes that I want to share with you today. The first mistake people are making with financial planning is they're taking financial advice from people who are paid to sell them stuff. Now, the regulator is complicit here because a financial advisor in Ireland is defined under Irish regulation as someone licensed to sell regulated financial product. But let's face it, guys, if you're paid to sell somebody something, you're not an advisor, you're a salesman. We don't call the fella in the Ford garage an automotive advisor. He's not. He's a car salesman, and nor should we be calling, in my view, those paid to sell pre-packaged financial products advisors. But we do. So it's up to you to overcome that. It's up to you to question these people. It's up to you to make sure that these people work for you and not for the institutions. Think of it this way. Financial products that are pre-packaged, they come to you with the product provider's terms and conditions. With the product provider's profit already enshrined in the terms and conditions. They come to you with the salesman's profit already enshrined in their terms and conditions, which necessarily means that your and my profit as the end user of these products is necessarily in no better than third place. Warren Buffett has said it. If you want one piece of financial advice, it is stop taking advice from those paid to make other people money. Find proper advisors. Find advisors who work for you, who are paid to make you money. So number 1 mistake, taking advice from those paid to sell you stuff. What's the second mistake? The second mistake is taking advice in isolation, in silos. So most people I meet on my consults week by week have a number of financial advisors already in their corner. They have an accountant who does their taxes. They have a solicitor who does their wills. They have a bank manager who lends them money. They have a pensions broker who sells them pensions. They have a brother-in-law who worked for Abbey Life in 2004 and sold them some product or other. Now, the problem here is if we liken that to an orchestra. The problem here is that the orchestra, first of all, although they're an orchestra, they never talk to each other. The accountant isn't talking to the pensions bloke isn't talking to the lawyer isn't talking to the bank manager. So this team of people who are supposed to be working for us aren't working as a team at all. And again, if we continue with the orchestra analogy, that means you sit in the audience and here's how you deal with that team. Every now and again you walk in the pit and you talk to the flautist and you say, I know nothing about playing the flute, whatever you think yourself. And you say the same thing to the piano player and you say the same thing to the guitarist and you say the same thing to the drummer. You go back and you sit down in your seat and one plays Rachmaninoff's Fifth, one plays Jingle Bells, one plays Santa Claus Could Come into Town, one plays the Irish National Anthem. And you're sitting there going, oh my goodness, what's going on? These are professional musicians. What these musicians lack, guys, to continue the analogy for a moment, is sheet music. They aren't working for you. They're working for themselves in silos. And for those of you who follow us, you may have seen me talk about this before. What happens if 100 grand falls out of the sky? It's your money. You don't have to hand it in the Gardaí. Nice bundle. You can do with it what you like. And you take it to your accountant and he or she tells you what to do with it and a whole bunch of reasons why they're right. But you don't take their advice necessarily. You go to the next person, your pensions bloke, and guess what? They tell you something different and a whole bunch of reasons why they're right. And you take it to your bank manager and, hey, quelle surprise, something different and a whole bunch of reasons why they're right. The question is, which one is right? And the answer is they're all right because they're working on their agenda, not your agenda. What you need to decide is to make sure that you know what your agenda is. You set financial objectives clearly, and then you tell all of these people what the objectives are, so that they formulate those of their advice with your objectives in mind, not their own. To go back to the orchestra analogy for a second, what you need to provide the orchestra with is sheet music. Here's what I want to hear. Here's what I want you to play. Now go back and sit in your audience. And you will see, you will have a completely different experience because they'll all play together. So the first problem is biased advice from those paid to sell you stuff. The second problem is isolated advice. So a team, but not playing as a team. The third problem, paying too much tax. Most people I meet have the attitude that if I could pay less tax, somebody would have told me so. Here's a question. What's somebody's job? Which somebody, I beg your pardon's job, is it to tell you these things? Is it your accountant's job? No. Your accountant's job is to help you pay tax in a timely fashion. Is it your brother-in-law's job? Is it your pension broker's job? Is it your bank? No. So stop having the attitude that if I could pay less tax, somebody would tell me so, and start asking those who know whether you can pay less tax. There are many, many legitimate ways to pay less tax. Not only are there many legitimate ways, you have a democratic right, guys, to pay only the taxes you should pay. But only you can exercise that right. Nobody will do it for you. You won't put in your Form 11 and the revenue ring you up at the end of the year going, hey, by the way, Johnny, did you know you could claim this to claim that? Doesn't happen. You have to know what your rights are and then exercise those rights. So first problem, biased advice, people selling you stuff. Second problem, lack of joined up thinking. Your orchestra isn't playing as a team. Third problem, you're overpaying taxation. And by the way, the revenue agree with me on this, as they regularly report to the PAC, the Public Accounts Commission, that Irish taxpayers overpay taxation. And bear in mind that the high earners I'm talking to, you guys pay about 64% of the income tax paid in this state. That means you guys are overpaying 64% of the overpayment. The last figure the revenue gave the PAC, €500 million a year in tax concessions remaining unclaimed. Finally, fourth mistake, they lack a financial plan. Let me tell you a story. Now, I understand why many of us, maybe especially those in the PAYE world, lack a financial plan. But I don't understand how people in business lack a personal financial plan. Because you guys are using plans all the time. Many years ago, I met brothers in Dublin who are involved in the tourism industry, tourism services. And I met them, the first day I met them, I went to their offices around close to St. Patrick's Cathedral, and I asked them a question as we entered their boardroom and sat down. I said, tell me about your business. 45 minutes later, I had a pain in my hand from taking notes, and they stopped telling me about their business. They could tell me about the seasonality. They could tell me the number of tourists coming to Dublin. They could tell me how many staff they needed. They could tell me how many sandwiches those staff would eat from the canteen. I listened. I took notes. It was great information for me at the time. Then I asked them a second question. Tell me about your personal financial plans. And they looked at each other and went, huh? Now, these guys understood the benefits of planning. For those of you who listened to our podcast, you know we had a psychologist on recently who explained that writing things down, why when human beings write things down, they tend to deliver it far more readily than when they don't. And his explanation was because we're entering into a written contract with ourselves. So if you want to achieve a certain financial outcome in your life, if you want to spend time with your family without having to go to work at some stage in the future, then the first step in that process is to write that down, to put a number on it. What's your financial freedom number? Because if you think about this as a journey, your financial freedom number is your destination. And frankly, if you get in your car, turn on the keys, start driving, and you don't have a destination, you go round in circles for the rest of your life, don't you? The first thing to decide with any journey is my destination. And in financial terms, your financial freedom number is your destination. Once you have that, the second question, how far have I already travelled? So based on my current planning, there's my target, there's my number. How much towards that have I already achieved? Once you have that figure, you know the gap, don't you? And once you have the gap, you can plan the route from where you are now to where you wish to be. None of that. Most people lack a personal financial plan. There's a survey done in the United States every year, and it's a survey of retiring people. And in 2012, I read an article recently that told me in 2012, they introduced a new question to that retirement survey. And the question was, did you have a personal financial plan? In the last 12 years, guys, those who tick yes to that have accumulated twice as much wealth as those who don't tick yes. A financial plan is key. A financial plan, go back to my orchestra analogy, is the sheet music. This is the document you bring to your accountant, your pensions broker, your bank manager to say, the advice you give me in the future has to be formulated with this agenda in mind. So, what are the top 4 things people do wrong with financial planning? They take advice from people paid to make other people money. They take advice in isolation, and I've called this the ripple effect. They forget about the fact that your finances are a whole, guys. They're not compartmentalized, even though you have to deal with different professionals in various elements of them. They overpay taxation with the attitude of, I could pay less, somebody would have told me so. And they lack a personal financial plan. Now, nothing worth having is simple. I'm not saying it's simple to combat these problems, to overcome these problems. But what I am saying to those high earners out there is that there is a group of individuals in Ireland called financial planners. It's what I used to be before I did this stuff, that will deliver that for you, that will help you overcome the bias of financial sales, that will help you joined up thinking and write sheet music for your orchestra, that will help you identify the methods you can pay less tax, and will put all of that in a reviewable financial written document that you have a contract you make with yourself to deliver the best outcomes your financial circumstances will allow. Find one of those planners for yourself. Start to work with him or her and watch the outcome improve and improve over time. Best of luck.